All right, we'll take a little bit of a brief break here. That was fellowship. And I'm going to go into the next portion of today's presentation. We're at 6:27. That took 45 minutes. Wow. That was the longest I've ever talked about fellowships. So this next portion is really, really not essential at this time. We're going to start to look 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road. It's just supposed to kind of plant the seed. I know a lot of this stuff might still seem out there. This is also a good presentation as well if you're interested in our certification program. I've been doing a lot of, let me stop sharing for just a moment. I've been doing a lot of work recently in establishing a formalized program around fellowship facilitation and time bank brokering. So a lot of this material going forward here today, this part 3, the time bank implementation and the reverse market mechanics application, that's really for if you're interested in doing the deep dive now, looking at what's involved with that certification program. It's kind of like my little teaser course here. So it's also an attempt to start talking businessese, starting talking more of a realistic, practical level on how to integrate this system with the current conventional economy. So if at any time this material seems dry or overwhelming, feel free to discard it right now. This is not essential information. Again, right now, we're not looking past the first year. And again, the first year is about fellowship. It's about establishing those deep relationships, that really creates the foundation of our time bank. So this presentation coming up is more looking at the mechanics. I believe time banking is the microeconomic factors, and the reverse market mechanics is the macroeconomic. How do we start to impact things on a global economic level? So for a lot of people, it's very overwhelming. I understand that. Please feel free to set this information aside for a later date if it at any time it kind of feels like it's just not accessible at this time. And that's okay. And that's personally okay with me. I think some people might resonate with this now. So that's why I'm putting it out there. It also helps inspire me because it helps reaffirm for myself where we're going with this. Okay, so it is now 6:30 in the morning, and we're going to go into first the time bank implementation. Time bank implementation in 2022. So this is after we've established our 32 core fellowship members. And I'm going to go back to time bank implementation. There's all of our stuff there. Here we go. All right, we're going to go from the current slide. Time bank implementation. All right, so here are some of the things we talk about when it comes to time banking. So I'll go back to our first part where one of the pillars of socioeconomic stability is time banking. It's this idea that everybody's hour has value. It's worth the same in a mutual partnerships, in that kind of an arrangement. When you're really, honoring each other's time, everybody's time is valuable and it can accrue exponential interest. So when we see each other's value, respect each other's value, we start to create a new economy out of that. I mean, there's 68 trillion hours available every year if every person is contributing to service to others or within fellowships. That's huge. That's a big alternate economy that does exist. It's a psychological concept, but it does exist, and it has the potential to turn things around in our world. So first, I'm going to do a service log demonstration, and I'm just going to show you a little bit of the ourworld.org software that we use to establish our time bank. So I'm going to go to the page. So you just go to ourworld.org. And if you're a member of our time bank, you just sign in with your email and your password. So this is the home page for our time bank. So I want to let you know, it's not intended to be this pretty, beautiful, software program. We just log the hours here. This is what helps us show up, get the ball rolling, and start making a real difference. And how that is accomplished is being aware of the time you are spending, doing this work. So I'm going to go into hours, and I'm going to log my time doing this. So I spent 45 minutes doing the fellowship presentation. I'm expecting to do a half an hour doing this presentation. It took me about 15 minutes to set up. So I'm going to put 2 hours in for this exchange. So I'm providing this service. Again, today's date is the 7th, March 7th. Wow, is it the 7th already? Yes, it is. So this is a service I am providing to the bank, to the Karmic Margin Call project. So it's one member. So it's not a member to member exchange. It's what I'm providing to the bank now to help our outreach, to help education, and to help our initiative. So 2 hours. I'm going to type in the member's name. So I just type in KAR, and pops up. There's a search engine there, Karmic Margin Call Project. So let's see here. What I do is I encourage people, if you're just getting involved, to look at some of the Our World videos, presentations, tutorials on this, but mostly play around. Just play around and see what categories are available there. So I'm going to say this is a class. So I'm teaching a class about our time bank. So we'll do presentations and workshops. That sounds good. And this is the 5-year plan presentation, which I'm doing today. Then I'll record the transaction, and that will go in my bank. So I have another 2 hours as services provided. And I'll show you a little bit of my statements so you can see, there's a running tally of the hours provided, the hours received, what your balance is. So, these are all hours that you can exchange with other time bank members. So you can see some of my history in here. When I work on my film, I log. So you see a lot of audio, video, recording, editing. As I'm working on the documentary film, these are all creditable hours, that go into my bank that I can use to exchange with other members down the road. Meetings about marketing and publicity. So these are all things that I have done to help expand the time bank. And nothing I'm getting paid for right now, but it helps me to build equity, helps me to build capital within our system, within the time banking system. And I'll talk a little bit more about that when we go into reverse market mechanics. All right, so back to our presentation. That was the service log demonstration on our World site. It's important in the time bank as well to establish one-on-one relationships. As with anything, as with any system that is fairly new, there is that learning curve. I think it's really important to meet one-on-one, with your partner, with a new member, and really explore the software. And again, the software doesn't have to be complicated. What defines this initiative and what defines the growth of it are those partnerships. So I do encourage one-on-one relationships to support each other with logging, with keeping in mind, what you're doing is a service provided. Log it, help each other to kind of become more conscious of the time they're spending, doing this work. Review regional metrics. Yes, what the time bank also helps us to do is we can review, where our members are located, where the initiative is growing, what potential is starting to emerge in a region. So we have established regional metrics based on that, and so that's important. when you join the time bank. You give your address as well. That helps us to establish, where in the world you are, because we're not contained. We're not limited by one region. Our goal is to help people understand the three pillars of socioeconomic equality all over the world. So anybody in the world can join this time bank, and we can review what's going on locally in different parts of the world. It helps us to measure the 2x2 trend. So the 2x2 trend is really a very simple concept, and it imitates nature. It's this idea that if you're cultivating your deep relationships, the ones that have the most meaning for you, you will attract two people into this initiative, and through that relationship, you will inspire those two to do deep dives on two partnerships or relationships, so that 2 becomes 4, 4 becomes 8. So that's the microeconomics. That's really the easy part. Easy as far as how deep your relationships are, and what you need to personally do to do those deep dives in your relationships. And what that does is it transfers to a macroeconomic level, because that only has to replicate itself 20 times. 2x2 only has to replicate itself 20 times to become 1 million. 1,048,576 to be exact. So that's where it really hits the ground. You hit the ground running with being able to do those deep dives in your personal relationships. You have the power to double these efforts, and it's small steps for everybody, but a small step for everybody creates an exponential step for everybody. So yeah, I want to really emphasize the power of those deep relationships, of transferring those hours out of the extractive economy and into our regenerative economy. That time becomes very valuable, and it compounds upon itself through the 2x2 trend, and we measure that. So that's what the 2x2 trend is. We take a look in essence, within the matter of time. How long does it take each member to establish fellowships, to establish those relationships? So that's part of the metrics that we look at as well. Is we encourage all of our members, to just focus on 2 relationships. You can have more, and that's great, but usually the more you go big with that, the more diluted the relationships become. So what we measure is how long it takes each member, to establish those relationships, and that takes time sometimes. And my hope and my intention is the more that we share this kind of material, that the more we share it, the quicker it will become, and the easier it will become to establish that trust and to grow exponentially. But it starts with fellowship. All right. So let me go back just a moment, and I realized I wasn't on the slideshow presentation, but I'll give those to you one more time so that you can see the big screen here. Time bank implementation, I did a service log demonstration. That was at ourworld.org. So if you are a member of our time bank, you just put in your login information, it will pop you right into our system. You can establish one-on-one relationships. So that's really important, that you have 2 partners, and you're giving time and attention to those partnerships to help understand the software, to help become cognizant of how you're spending your time. Reviewing of regional metrics. Again, that helps us to really understand where in the world this initiative is starting to take hold, starting to catch fire, and what we need to do, how we need to change to help other regions understand it better. And we measure the 2x2 trend, where exponential growth is possible. 2 becomes 2. 1 becomes, I always do that. 1 becomes 2. 2 becomes 4. 4 becomes 8. Replicated 20 times becomes 1,048,576. And I want to emphasize that is transferable into dollars, into currency. So when I say that, every individual, every owner of this bank, member owner, I'm talking about a $1 million return in liquid capital within less than 2 years. Okay, let that sink in for a moment. This information I'm giving you now, if it is followed up on, if it is given its due, what that means is it's a $1 million return to you in less than 2 years. Let that sink in for a moment. All right, so that's what we measure, is how long does it take for each member to establish those fellowships, the relationship. Before I get into reverse market mechanics, let me show you one other thing here. Actually, I do want to screen share here. If you are not a member of our time bank, let me show you how you can become a member. All right, so I'm going to go back to my internet here. So if you go to karmicmargincall.com, that'll take you to my personal blog, roguecounselor.com. But the Karmic Margin Call page here, this is where we give you a little bit of an overview of our time bank. And if you scroll down right underneath our logo here, you may visit our time bank, by clicking here. You can click here to fill out an application. And what that will do is it'll take you to our page where you can provide your basic information, email address, phone number if you wish, address. And then it will ask you for 2 references. And these are 2 references that, you might want to introduce this initiative to. So an email goes out to all of your references asking about you, about your character. Right now, I'm the only one really reviewing applications and approving them, or I haven't had to disapprove of one yet, but basically, it's the kind of thing where we want to make sure we're dealing with good people. Again, my statement is that I work with good people with impeccable character, and help them leverage their time and talent to unrig the financial system. So we do check in with those references, and as long as everything seems on the up and up, you can be approved and start collaborating with us. All right, so we're going to go back to my slideshow and start covering reverse market mechanics. So reverse market mechanics is how we put this 2x2 trend to work for every member. So within the first year or two, I want to be completely candid and honest. We're not really focused on changing the financial system in those first 2 years. We want to establish the fellowships, and we want to establish the time bank in those 2 years. When you start getting into the 3rd year with reverse market mechanics, that's where you're going to start to see the exponential returns. And it's just this idea that $1 doubled becomes 2, 2 becomes 4. And when you put in the element of time to that, when you're compounding the element of time, it changes everything. It changes the socioeconomic landscape. That's very difficult to wrap your head around. I get that. And I am creating a certification program just around this kind of material to help people understand that. So please be on the lookout for the 3 roadblocks to socioeconomic equality. I do that presentation every month. I'm going to be re-recording that next week to help introduce the concept of reverse market mechanics. So I'm going to be presenting a 20-hour program based on fellowship facilitation and time bank brokering, with a special emphasis on reverse market mechanics. So there's 20 hours of group study, and there's 20 hours of independent study. And I really would like people who are interested in this material specifically to get really good at it, to really understand how the element of time changes everything. And we're going to be looking at global shifts, I think, once this idea is understood. I think the problem I often encounter is not getting into debates about this or trying to emphasize the validity of this. It's just helping people start to understand the basic concept. It's already being put to work in our extractive economy. The banking system is already using a system like this to their benefit. When we put the time and the effort and we put that into the numbers, the equations, the accounting system, we start to create economic equality. So we put that, in a sense, we're kind of putting that same system that the bankers use to control everything, to work for us. And we can do that with our time because time is a tangible and measurable asset. So the 2x2 trend and reverse market mechanics. This is the analogy. And this is the kind of thing I like to express to help just kind of introduce you to this world about this idea of 2 becoming 4 and 4 becoming 8. I have a quote down there at the bottom that says, we need only imitate nature. Nature's already doing this. Nature's already showing us how to do this. It's just a matter of listening to her now. So reverse market mechanics is simply observing how we spend our time, okay? Changing the rules of exponential money market mechanics. I like what Einstein said. Compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world. Those who understand it, earn it, make it. Those who don't understand it are the ones paying it. So this idea of compounded interest is transferable to a time-based system where you are accruing that compounded interest based on the time you are investing in your ownership of this bank. So the 2x2 trend, again, 1 attracts 1 to make 2. 2 attracts 2 to make 4. 4 attracts 4 to make 8. Okay, this is not complicated, but it becomes confusing to a lot of people, I think, because we've been so inundated with an extractive system within a hierarchy, being kept in a compartment. We're compartmentalized, that something like this just doesn't seem accessible right now. Because I don't know, I think it's a secret that's been kept from us, quite honestly. And I think the more people can understand and grok this information is the way that we naturally turn things around. We don't have to fight, we don't have to push for it. Nature is already doing this. So the pattern only needs to repeat itself 20 times to make 1.048 million new experiences. Now, these are hours experiences within the regenerative economy. And if everybody is entitled to, $1 out of every hour that is invested in our time bank, that is a $1 million return to everybody. Okay, so I put the dividing cells up here as an illustration that nature is already doing this. The cell divides and becomes 2. Those cells will divide and make another 2, so that becomes 4. One organism will grow to be 1 million cells, 1 million organisms. So that is exciting stuff that nature is already doing this. And here is a story that I found online. I don't know who to credit this story to, but it really on an unconscious level for me, well, near unconscious level, really kind of triggers and really opens the box that, yes, this is possible because nature's been doing it. Here's the ancestral mechanics, mathematics behind it. In order to be born, you personally needed to have 2 parents, 4 grandparents, 8 great-grandparents, 16 second, 32 third, 64 fourth, 128 fifth, 256 sixth, 512 seventh, 1024 eighth, and 2048 ninth. For you to be born today from 12 previous generations, you needed a total of 4,094 ancestors over the last 400 years. I'm going to pause a moment here because let's take that back another 800 years. You know, you don't even have to go back that far, but if you go back as far as 20 previous generations, you would have needed 1,000,000 ancestors. Think about that for a moment. 1,000,000 ancestors just for you to be born. So that's reverse market mechanics transferred into the world of time and finances. Think for a moment, how many struggles, how many battles, how many difficulties, how much sadness, how much happiness, how many love stories, how many expressions of hope for the future did your ancestors have to undergo for you to exist in this present moment? So think about that, 1,000,000 stories, 1,000,000 acts of procreation just to make you. And that is transferable to reverse market mechanics. Every hour you spend is kind of like that act of procreation in a way. Your partners, the work that you do to create something. We're creating a better world. We're creating solutions to problems. The only thing keeping us from doing that, to solving those problems, is that we're in an extractive economy that depletes us of our time that we can spend doing that. Now we have a system where we can start to slowly but surely, and the wheel keeps spinning and it keeps spinning faster, 1 hour, 1 hour a week, maybe 2 hours a month at first, dedicated to something that you're passionate about, a relationship that you're passionate about. That's how you grow the regenerative economy. And that's how it will transfer into financial return within the extractive economy. So again, a very small glimpse into a much bigger world. And if this intrigues you in any way, if you want to be a part of the brokering or the administration of the program, please be on the lookout for the 3 roadblocks to socioeconomic equality. That's where I introduced the certification program where we really do deep dives on this. So RMM application, reverse market mechanic applications, so every time we have a new contributing member who contributes the $25 membership due, it helps us to track, the growth of reverse market mechanics, how we're making an impact in the extractive economy, the conventional economy. So again, if you're interested in administration down the road, these EPE numbers tell us which areas require attention, and what areas that are already, really very well established, how we can leverage the power of those areas, to approach and develop the underdeveloped areas. We measure something called velocity rate. So every member, in their own time, as they feel comfortable and confident and taking ownership of this information, we should see a velocity rate of this entire effort doubling every period. My goal is to see this double every month. So what we're doing in that respect is, we hope to see our first $1 million in revenue within 4 years, 3 to 4 years. And then if those if the 1,000,000 members end up generating $1 million in revenue, that's $1 trillion in 5 to 6 years. And that is dependent upon a monthly doubling. That's the velocity rate we're shooting for. Again, we're very much in the infant establishing phases of this, but I do believe that when we all come together and have those deep dive, realistic conversations, we can meet those goals. We still have to upscale to the point where the technology is helping us with this. Right now, I feel like social media and the technology is actively resisting us. So the velocity rate is something that we measure within the metrics. So in overall, what the bottom line is, it's telling us how much the regenerative economy is growing in terms of financial growth, dollars, pounds, whatever currency that you use in your region. But our goal is to help the market share of every member owner grow exponentially, and that is based on the time that you spend in service to others. So it's no longer about leveraging power or leveraging inflation over the masses. It's about leveraging your time spent in service to others to accrue capital, to accrue liquid capital. All right. So again, deep dives down the road here. I'm taking some of these from the business plan that we wrote for this time bank. But if you are interested in brokering or administrating or helping to expand this initiative, these are some of the strategic questions we're going to be exploring down the road in 3 years once we're growing, once we're established. Here's a sample EPE number. So 16 PA-MS65536. Okay, so it's just a number, but what this does in our system is it first establishes 16. 16 is the series number. So what that means is we've already doubled 16 times by that point. So 16 represents the series number. And at that point, there will be over 65,000 memberships or shares available. PA is the state, Pennsylvania. That's how we track the region. MS is my initials, Michael Schumann. So that's how we kind of put the individual into the system as well. We can help identify the individual by both initial and also the series number. So, in series 16, because it doubled 16 times, 1 became 2, 2 became 4, 4 became 16. Once we got to 16, there's 65,536 shares available. I call them stock books. Again, I'm going into my lingo here for a moment, but I want to help you understand that this number is assigned to a specific member to help them track their exponential growth. So it doesn't matter where in the series you are. Everybody is eligible for that same exponential growth because we're dealing with a 68 trillion hour economy that has been unexplored. And at a rate of $1.25 an hour, there's nothing but growth available for everybody. So this is a number that helps us to track what's going on in each region, as well as what's going on with each member. So we ask ourselves which regions are overperforming. So that's where we can find out, what's going on, where's the momentum, what's working, so that we can help the areas that are underperforming. So we identify which regions are underperforming. What is the poverty rate of the over and underperforming areas? That's important. I have a passion for helping the homeless, for helping impoverished areas. I was homeless once myself. I was bankrupt before. So I would like to really start to do the deep dives into what is the poverty rate, and really start to address the poverty in areas that have high poverty rates, because everybody has value, and we can tap into those impoverished neighborhoods to raise the social capital, which will eventually raise the financial capital in those areas that are impoverished. Are there organizations within the underperforming regions that are open to exploring this work? Again, that goes into regional fellowships, establishing regional fellowships for people. So, looking at the nonprofits, looking at the established time banking or transition town initiatives there. My hope is that through this initiative, we can grow the transition town and the time bank initiatives, not just for our organization, but for other organizations. In our estimation, there is no competition. There's just opportunities for collaboration. I mean, competition between organization exists where people are just being very emotionally immature. Okay, I know that's a bold statement, but I feel like competitiveness between organizations is based on emotional regression. When there's true spirit of collaboration, there's no reason why we can't work with any nonprofit or any humanitarian focused initiative. What niche fellowships are emerging? So, we might see that there's certain trends in certain areas around the specific topic. For example, in Phoenixville, there's a great initiative for for the establishment of nonprofit businesses for sustainability, for ecology, for gardening, for foraging. So there's some opportunities there for seeing what is the passion of the people in the region. So we look at, are there regional fellowships in those underperforming areas? Is there specifically a Karmic margin call project fellowship in Tucson, Arizona, or in Alberta, Canada, in Calgary, Canada, or whatever? So we start to look at what fellowships are emerging, and is there a specific established regional fellowship? Is there a Calgary Karmic margin call project, at that time in history or at that time in the future established? Those are the things we can look at, so we can start to establish more regional fellowships down the road. What is the form of the leadership established in each region? So these are the questions that we're asking ourselves as administrators, as people interested in the infrastructure of growing the time bank. How evenly are the service hours dispersed between member owners? So, you can look at that when you're establishing those one-on-one relationships with the time bank. Is there kind of like an imbalance of people providing services and people receiving services? That's opportunities for fellowship there. Is, how do we raise the social capital of the individual so that there is a mutual exchanging of giving and receiving for everybody? Who are the member owners? Okay, this is really a complex question, but I like to think about this as well too. Who are the member owners within the degrees of separation to the underperforming region or niche? What that really means is, if there is an underperforming area that may be resistant to this kind of idea, who lives in that area? What regions around that area might be performing well? And we start to look at, okay, well, who does this person know? Who knows this person? Who knows this person within our system, to establish a fellowship focused on helping the needs of the underdeveloped area. So that reveals possibly a fellowship which increases velocity rate in that underdeveloped area. So these are deep questions. These are really, really far thinking questions, but it's about connecting, about creating the relationships to really raise us all up, So degrees of separation will be kind of like in the advanced course of the certification program. So yeah, if any of these questions spark anything, in our business plan that I share with our contributing members, page 26, we have more exploratory questions, and that's part of our marketing efforts. Okay, and we come to the final phase of our presentation for today. In 2024, 2025, this is where we apply the technology, upgrade the technology for automation so that it becomes easier. Technology right now is exploiting us as humans. I think through this effort, we can start to turn it around and begin to get a grasp on our technology just as a tool, to measure the hours and to redirect that financial capital. And when I say, 1 trillion in revenues within 5 years, I mean it. If the 2x2 trend is established, and it can establish at the rate of growth that I think it can, we are looking at $1 trillion in revenues, which is a significant chunk out of the extractive economy, out of the $277 trillion and growing of debt. And that's where we begin to turn it around. We turn around our experience living on this planet. So I like to share a little video here about automation. So I'm just going to do my little narration while we do this. Okay, so I want you to imagine within our world, there is an extractive economy that is represented by a pyramid. All the power is up at the top. Everybody else is compartmentalized in their little sections down there. But in that pyramid, a little speck starts to grow. It's like an organism, a cell that becomes aware of something. All right, whether you want to think of it as being, cosmic in nature, that's fine. It's inspiration, but it inspires two people. There's Nefertiti and Marta. It inspires two. Those two expand the cell and they inspire two more. Those two inspire two more. And all of a sudden we're at 8 and then 16 and then 32 and then 64. And then wait a minute, what's going on? All of these cells are growing with consciousness within this organism that looks like a pyramid. And look at it. It looks like a flower of life pattern going on up there. What's going on here? This thing is getting out of control. People are starting to understand reverse market mechanics and time banking in general. And look at this. It's like this big mass growing in the pyramid structure. So, and other parts of the world, it's starting to grow in other parts of the world now. You look up at the top of that pyramid, the power, what's going on there? There's the duality. Yes, people use intimidation, interrogation, victimization, and secrecy to assert their power, but that's not working. And boom, things change. And all of a sudden, we're starting to practice collaboration, curiosity, mutuality, connection, observation. And we go back into, this understanding that we are transcending duality and doing the great work. And we have arrived. We have arrived, and the pyramid dissolves. And I say, I kind of like, that's kind of like a best case scenario with that. But I want to be clear. I don't think the pyramid is going to dissolve completely. I think we are working towards collaboration between the extractive and the regenerative. I think it's important that the pyramid not dissolve completely. I do think there needs to be a balance between both worlds, and I think that's what's going to be very inspiring for a lot of people. Is not, there's no desire to dismantle or destroy. I sometimes use the word dismantle, but really it's about finding equilibrium so that those people who want out of the extractive system, the hierarchy, they have an option. And that option comes through education and art. So if you're interested in becoming a administrator and a facilitator, be sure to check out the 3 roadblocks to economic equality. It's on the Road Counselor blog, roadcounselor.com. It's in the blog section now. I'm going to be re-recording that next week. So, be on the lookout for every month. That material is going to be presented. But again, I'm going to say there's 20 hours of group study, 20 hours of independent study. And I will make a guarantee on that program as well, too, that if you don't feel confident that you're going to generate a 7-figure income within 2 years, give you all the money back. I'm still trying to decide, what price tag I want to put on that service. But we're starting that conversation about doing a deep dive into this kind of material that we just covered with time banking and reverse market mechanics. So that's it. karmicmargincall.com. Again, we're just looking to deepen those relationships. I kind of gave you the overview today. So that was the 5-year plan. The 5-year plan to generate $1 trillion in revenue in less than 5 years. I also call it the 5-year plan for reverse engineering the extractive economy. So again, it's a very small step into a much bigger world. A lot going on, a lot of activities that you could potentially be involved with and collaborate with. But really what it all comes back is, it comes back to you. It comes back to your intention, and it comes back to, who you want to be in this world. What is the role that you are creating in this world? What is the role you are creating for yourself? I'm going to do my little speech from the beginning of the film that we're making. There are only 2 of us here. You playing the role of the observer, perhaps the critic, and I reenacting my role as the participant. I'm just the storyteller, the actor. At the end of this film, all that really matters is whether or not you become the participant. And that might mean stepping out of your safe role as critic. This is a program about you, about the role you are creating for yourself in every single moment in the grand story of life. And at the end of this presentation, the choice will be yours and yours alone. Is this your time or not? Thank you. This is Mike Schumann, and hopefully get to know you and get to speak with you soon about this.